Our first author in today's book club is a social worker who is dedicated to educating, healing, and nurturing mental health issues within young men and adults. Here to share his book and experience, I want to welcome author and Navy SEAL veteran Thomas J. LaGrave Jr. Can you tell us a little bit about your book, Special Welfare Social Warfare? What inspired it?
Well, I was a former Navy SEAL. I ended up being discharged for drug use and found my way into the world and trying to understand how to live life. I started working with youth, and they not only helped me find sobriety, but they also gave me a purpose and a meaning, which you'll find is the story of the book. And right now, I'm just here to share with that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And you have a really important story, and you're so open to sharing it. So thank you for that honesty with our audience. A lot of good can come out of those tough times, right? So what have you noticed? I know you focus mostly on young adults, men, because you think at a certain age that it's like when they're struggling the most.
Yeah, adolescent to adulthood, that's where we once had rites of passage, and that is something that society has kind of forgotten. And I brought that in. I have a nonprofit called Honor-Bound Academy, and this is where I introduced not only the rite of passage, but the way of the warrior, teaching men how to transition from adolescent to adulthood and be able to understand that they have all that they need within them, and that's what we try to.
That's a great message and a great reminder of support as well that you are providing for these young adults. You have an excerpt that you're going to read for us. What is this about?
This is about what the problem with so many youth today, that they haven't been given the education about failure. Failure is a right that we all have. It's something that is what makes us better. It gives us an opportunity to better understand what is it we have to correct in our lives when we find the failure. And what I've got here is, and the beginning of any endeavor, you hope for the best and you plan for the worst. And this is where you will be taught during a one-year program that you'll be participating at Honor-Bound Academy.
Oh, great.
And I appreciate all that you've done for me in allowing me to bring this message.
Absolutely. God bless you. Thank you for sharing this with us. I hope that maybe someone in the audience heard your message today.
I hope so.
And it will certainly help them. How can people purchase your book?
Yeah, you can find this on Amazon, but I have a website too that you can go to. It's thehonorboundacademy.org. One more time, the Honor-Bound Academy, all one word, .org, and you can find all my social media in there, and you can find all about me.
All right, Thomas. Well, thank you again for sharing your story with us and for sharing your book with us.
Yes.
Paul, he's also got an author with an important message.
I do, yeah. For over 25 years, our next author has been writing books. She's been writing children's books, I believe over 20. I want you to welcome Catherine Stier.
Thank you.
Hi.
I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you are here. Of course, election is tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, and your book ties in really well with that. We'll get to that in just a second. But first of all, I got to ask you, how did you get started?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. So my very first book is called If I Were President. It's been out for 25 years, and it's still in print and still selling. And that book came about because I was working as in a preschool program, and President's Day came along, and I was looking for a book to read to them. Well, all of the books that I could find were long accounts about Lincoln or Washington. That was
almost overload.
Yeah, too much for the little 4-year-olds. And in talking to the 4-year-olds, I found out they did not know that the president lived in the White House, for example.
Right.
So I found there needed to be a book that covered the perks and responsibilities of the highest office of the land, brought down to a level that kids could understand.
You know, I think as adults, we forget that, hey, you got to learn this somewhere.
Right, absolutely.
And you don't want to read a book that's like that, right? Especially if you're 4 or 5 years old. So that's what inspired you, I guess, to do that.
That was the very first book that came out, yes.
Okay, so we've got the big election tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And so you want to teach these kids about how important elections are, and you've got an excerpt from your book that you'd like to read.
Yes, so the book opens with, "A vote is a powerful thing. That's what my teacher says. Powerful enough to change the world. That gets my attention." So in this story, we wanted to write a book about voting. My editor had suggested we tackle voting for very young kids.
Right.
So the challenge was, how do you relate it to their experience?
Right.
So I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, field trips were a big deal.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Absolutely, you really looked forward to them. So in this book,
I think partly to just get out of the classroom, but field trips were awesome.
a big deal, right? Yes. So in this book, the kids are voting in their class for their field trip, and along the way learning about the process of voting. So they get to choose either between a cookie factory with free samples or the wilderness park. And our hero Callie has been to the wilderness park, and it's very important to her. She's had some amazing experiences there, and she wants her classmates to experience that, so she decides to campaign for the wilderness park, where another child is campaigning for the cookie factory.
So you got a vote going on.
You got a vote.
Not just necessarily for president or whatever,
right.
but
Issues can be important
yeah.
too. So along the way, the class learns about voting while voting themselves for something that's important to them.
All right. This sounds phenomenal, and I'm sure Justin got some nice pictures here. Hey, you've got a book signing coming up, right?
I do, yes. At the Pearl Night Market. They started a seasonal night market on Wednesday night. I'm going to be there from 5 to 7 at the Twig booth. In the night market, and it's a chance to visit with local creators and maybe get some holiday shopping done.
Get some holiday shopping. Speaking of that, you got a special offer.
I do. So when I was writing this series about dogs with amazing jobs, a lot of the dogs I met I found had their own trading cards. For instance, avalanche rescue dogs at ski resorts have their own trading cards. So my publisher and I put together these trading cards for each of the dogs that is featured in this chapter book series. So when you purchase a book, you get one of the cards.
Well, Catherine, you have really made this fun.
Well, thank you.
How can they find you?
I would go to my website, www.catherinestier.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you've inspired me. Well, I've already voted, but I was going to say you inspired me to go vote, but I've already voted early. But anyway.
That's the message we're trying to get out there. The importance of one vote.
All right. Well, thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right. Thanks a bunch. And don't go anywhere because